a business analyst, or basically the area of business analysis in the area of strategy analysis can help us, because one of the areas, one of the tasks of strategy analysis is understanding the as-is state, the current state. A part of understanding the current state is understanding what are we doing in the organization, what's the flow, what are the processes, the services, how they are connected.
Welcome to today's episode of Inside Business Analysis. My name is Tanner Jacobs, I'm your host, and today I am joined with another special guest with plenty of knowledge and wisdom to share regarding business analysis in general. And we're going to touch on a hot topic of strategy analysis and what that's all about. And my guest today is Karolina. How are you doing today, Karolina?
Perfect, thank you very much. I know that you are not able to pronounce my second name.
I'm going to give it a try. I think the way you pronounce it is Zmitrowicz.
Yeah, almost there.
Okay.
Yeah. Perfect. Thank you very much.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's me.
Well, lovely to have you on the show. And, I definitely want to thank you for, you were officially the first person to reach out to me with an interest to be a guest on the show. Yeah. So you got that flag to hang up. So, but I highly appreciate you for effectively volunteering your efforts, your time to be on the podcast as a guest.
It's always a pleasure.
Oh, of course. Yeah, of course. So please, tell us a little bit about who you are and kind of what you do and all the rest of it.
Okay. So, starting from the very beginning, I'm from Poland, a beautiful city. And I'm mostly in business analysis, IT consulting, and so on. I'm in the domain since something like 20 years, I think. And what is quite important is that I started in quality assurance. I started as a tester. And why I'm thinking it is important, because it gave me a specific background, helping me to be, that's my personal opinion, to be a better business analyst. Because if you know how to test, how to think in a kind of negative scenarios, then you are really able to create better solutions, better requirements, to think in a little bit different way. So I really evaluate the experience that I have. And as said, I'm working as business analyst, working for different customers, really different, from banking to smart houses. And I really love working with processes, strategies, at the top level, not really on the project level, user stories and so on. It's okay, being honest, but I love working with processes, strategies, creating the value, creating the top level, the top level approach to initiatives. What else? Well, I'm involved in several initiatives. I'm in non-profit initiatives. I'm also acting in IREP, so the International Requirements Engineering Board. I'm also supporting IBA a little bit. And I think these are the most important informations.
Which is speaks to your experience, speaks to your knowledge, and speaks to your expertise. And there's a lot of things that you already touched on, which I just want to touch on really quickly. You mentioned that you switched from tester to business analysis. What led to that, and why did you make that switch?
That's a funny thing, because I started in IT, and I didn't really know what is IT about. I had some topics on studies and so on, but I really didn't know what is this IT about. And I started my first work. I started as a tester because I was not really competent in programming. I started as a tester, and very shortly I had an interaction with business analysts. And for me, it was like, wow, they are creating the products. I'm just testing. They are creating. They are building. And that was the wow effect for me. And that caused that in something like 6 months, I decided that this is the way. This is what I want to do in my life. This is what I would like to become, a business analyst.
Awesome. Yeah, no, I love that. And, you mentioned that the thinking negative approach from a because when you're testing something, I guess you're trying to break it. So
Yes.
you're saying that
Yeah.
that approach has actually
Mhm.
helped you to be a really competent business analyst effectively.
Yeah, because well, if we will think about that, many of business analysts, they are thinking a little bit like a developer. What should happen? How things should work? Yeah, and they are missing the thinking what should not happen, which exceptions we can notice. Yeah, what can go wrong? So this is the important background, the important lessons that I learned. If we want to build a really, resilient solutions, valuable solutions, we need to ensure that also these negative paths are addressed, because you cannot assume that the user will know what to do, right?
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's an interesting perspective. Another thing that you mentioned, obviously, is that you are a member of the executive board at IREB, which is the
Mhm.
International Requirements Engineering Board. Just tell us a little bit more about what that means or what that entails.
Okay, that's an organization quite similar to IBA, I would say. It's also non-profit, also acting in a kind of certification standardization area. And IREP is focused, let's say, mostly, but not only on requirements engineering itself. So, if we are talking about business analysis, we are talking about, let's say, end-to-end life of a business need, including some working with requirements. Yeah? And IREP is going deeper into the requirements, different techniques of management, different techniques of requirement solicitation, consolidation of requirements, life cycle. Yeah, so I would say it's a perfect kind of addition, or maybe an area that is really working together and really working as a part of business analysis. So this is why I think these two organizations, these two areas are really close together, even if the focus is a little bit different. Because from the business analysis perspective, I need to work with requirements and I need to do it right. Otherwise, you are ending with requirements like, for example, the solution should be fast. And that's purely wrong requirement because it's not precise. Yeah? And from the very definition, requirements engineering, we are not talking about requirements writing. We are not talking about storytelling. We are talking about engineering. So you need to have a kind of technical knowledge. Technical, I don't mean the knowledge, the implementation skills or something, but I need to know some techniques, some methods for being precise with my wording, being the engineer as well.
Of course, yeah. No, that's yeah. No, thank you for that. I think there's probably people who have never come across IREB effectively, and never heard of it. So IREB, you can definitely check them out online and learn more about what they do over there. So one thing that you touched on in your kind of your brief introduction about yourself is that you love strategy analysis and you love
Yeah.
working at that top level, that high level. Um, so kind of just starting off from ground zero, what would you say strategy analysis means, and from a BA's perspective, what does it look like?
Okay. So from my understanding, strategy analysis is basically a set of different practices, methods that will help us to understand what is the current state of the organization, what are the goals, the business goals, and what is the future state, so that we can define a kind of gap and define the change strategy. In other words, strategy analysis will help us to deliver the value to the organization by pointing some paths, some future states. And that's the idea of strategy analysis. This is not working with the solution itself, because the solution is typically not in place so far. The solution, well, we are not talking about the solution level. We are talking about the business level, the organization level, the level of goals, the level of business needs, the level of maybe some new business services, maybe some business products. Yeah, anything that is needed to, let's say, bring the gap between the as a state, the current state, and the future state. The future state. So this is the state in the future that the organization wants to reach. That's strategy analysis.
Yeah, and it's and as you say, I think I love the description that you made, or the distinction that you made, even about it's not solution focused,
Mhm.
it's organizational level focused. So we're not, I guess we're not even talking like I don't know, like a project level. Even, we're not saying this is a part of a project. You do a little bit of strategy analysis and then you do business analysis, so to speak, or requirements gathering or requirements engineering. But it's not even a project. It's more like a very high level organizational approach, business
And
wide
that's quite
strategy
tricky,
analysis.
and that's interesting because
Mm,
in real life, well, this is my opinion here. Strategy analysis, for me, it's not necessarily a phase. It should be something that is ongoing in the organization. I mean, if you are running a business, you cannot just run the business without thinking about the next actions, about the future state, competitors, potential users, and so on. So for me, the strategy analysis, from one point of view, it cannot be defined as a project because project, from definition, has a start date and the end date.
yeah.
Here, we don't have the end date. Yeah. For me, that's not really a kind of project because it should be ongoing in the organization so that the organization can really keep things on track, can react on market changes, can react on new competitors, for example, new technologies, and so on. But from the other side, sometimes I am helping the customers in performing the strategy analysis, and this is called as a kind of project. Yeah. So the customers, sometimes they are maybe not skilled, maybe they don't have time or whatever to perform the strategy analysis, but they feel they need. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they could, in theory, initiate a kind of project for performing some strategy analysis activities. And in this specific case, we could call it a project. That we have a start date, we have some specific scope, we have an end date, we have defined results, artifacts that we need to deliver. Yeah, so it's quite tricky topic because we cannot exclude the situation that the strategy analysis could be a project.
Right. I see. Yeah, I see what you mean. I see what you mean. So, in
And
terms of the approach with strategy analysis and kind of looking at it from this kind of organizational level, um, what I'm trying to kind of see it in action almost. What does it then look like from the analyst's perspective? Are What are they doing? Are they kind of doing the typical thing of having workshops, but at a senior level? Are they doing a lot of desk research, or are they? What does that actually look like in practice, effectively?
I would say it depends on the state and the customer, but just an example, it could look like that. Well, you have a customer. Let's imagine you have a customer. The
Hmm.
customer is reaching you and asking for some of help because the customer feels that something is going wrong. Like, for example, too many complaints for the end users from the customers of service, whatever. Yeah. So we are starting with the problem. And in order to understand the problem, we need to do some analysis. So I could do a market research. I can, for example, look what are the competitors' products, what they have, what we could have. I could interview some users asking, okay, why do you don't like this product, whatever. So I can do some users research. Of course, I can do workshops. But for me, these are just tools,
Yep.
techniques. This is not important.
Okay.
What is important is establishing the goal, what I want to achieve. Do I want to improve something, like business process? Do I want to increase my competitive advantage? It depends from the business goal, right? And the starting point is to understand the business goals, objectives of the customers. If they don't have it defined, that's a problem.
Mm,
You see, we are
mm.
running a company and we don't have a business goal defined. We don't have actually the strategy and the vision of operating. What does it mean? You are doing things and you don't know where are you going.
Would 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 the strategy analysis then help to answer that, or
Yes.
is that a
Yes.
prerequisite of strategy analysis?
Well, again, difficult thing because Again, in theory, if you are running a major organization, the business goals should be established. Yeah, the management, they are doing the top level management, they are defining that. But sometimes they need some help. And that could be the chance for business analysts to ask people, management, to maybe not support, or support is a good word. Support them in making decisions. Where do we want to go? What could be our plan? What could be our goal? For example, we are selling products, perfect, and we are successful in this business. Good. What do we want to do next? Are we selling products in Poland? Perfect, very well. Do we really? Do we also want to sell, for example, in Germany? Do we want to extend the business, reach new markets? Do we want to reach new customers? So, in theory, business analyst is not really defining the strategy, because this is something that the stakeholders, shareholders, management should do, decision makers. But we are helping. We are there to facilitate the discussion.
Yeah, no, I see. So the outcome of what the strategy is still really on them to define that. We're just kind of taking them through the journey of understanding that, because maybe the problem is so big that even they don't really know what
Yes,
what
yes.
what the solution should look like, or what the next step should be, sort of thing.
That's quite important what you said. Sometimes the problem, the organization is so complex that we need to consider and analyze several factors to really understand where do we want to go. And we are starting from the business problem and from the business need, what we want to achieve. Yeah. The solution comes later. We are starting from the problem, not from the solution.
So you've mentioned one example there about a problem is that they're having a lot of customer complaints,
Yeah.
and then we're looking to figure out what the strategy is. Can you touch on some examples of common problems that organizations might face at this level?
Oh, there's a lot of problems, Sometimes the problem is that a given organization, it's running the business and they know what to do, they know how to do. But their processes, their business operations, they are not really understood. So it can generate a problem because people are doing things without understanding how they are doing these things. The result can be that, for example, some quality check is missing. And the consequence is that the product is low quality, which generates the complaints. What is the source of the problem? Probably one of the reasons could be that we are doing things, but we don't really have described processes, which means that it's quite easy to forget that when producing a product, I need to do a quality check. Yeah? If it's written in a process description, there is small chance to forget because you need to follow the procedure. Yeah? So that could be a problem, that the company is existing, is running the business, but they have a kind of internal problems that we also can help to solve, like standardize some operations, like really understand how they are working. That's sometimes difficult to get the information. Dear guys, dear stakeholders, how are you doing your job? And believe me, sometimes they are not able to explain. What does it mean? That hello, we have a problem. You are doing things and you don't really know how you should do these things. So that's one problem to address. Because taking from the business perspective, probably you won't be able to scale the business, to improve your markets and so on, to increase the market, if your processes are not mature. Because in the small organization, probably you could manage. One customer complaining, that's okay. But if you want to grow, then there will be no one customer. It will be 1,000 or 10,000. Every single problem in the process will scale up. Yeah, so a business analyst, or basically the area of business analysis in the area of strategy analysis, can help us, because one of the tasks of strategy analysis is understanding the as-is state, the current state. A part of understanding the current state is understanding what are we doing in the organization. What's the flow? What are the processes, the services, how they are connected?
Yeah, and I can imagine being at an organizational level. How do you ring fence that analysis? Because even in the project space, um, there is there is always the danger of never ending analysis. And I'm talking, maybe we're looking at a single process within a single team, as opposed to an organizational level end-to-end process of something.
Good question. Yeah, and I would say that in most cases, maybe all cases, the absolutely full analysis is rather not feasible. Even if it's feasible, it makes no sense because it will cost money. And you know perfectly that, well, we can spend money if we have something in advance. Yeah, if we have some profit, some benefit, whatever, return of investment. So what I'm typically doing, that if the customer wants to improve something, the customer has a business problem, whatever, yeah, the business problem to solve, the pain to solve. What we need to start with? We need to start with understanding what is the problem, what is the impacted area. We need to understand how the organization is doing right now, which means that, for example, I can create a list of business processes. Then we need to understand which of these processes are important from the point of view of a given business problem. And I will go deeper into these processes, not in all, because it makes no sense. It could make sense, but it will not bring the value in a short time. Yeah. So what we are doing, we are prioritizing things.
You mentioned earlier on, and that's a very good way to actually look at this. By the way, you mentioned earlier on that that fundamentally, number one, the strategy itself is not for us to define. It's for the business to define. We're kind of walking them through that journey. Excuse me. So I'm wondering what the outcome of this strategy analysis, where say you have looked at the problem, right, and now we understand this is the problem that this particular area of the organization has regarding customer complaints, and we understand the problem. What do you do then, and what is it that you're kind of working towards?
Okay, so if we know what's the problem, we understood the problem, we understood, for example, the root causes, and let me do a very short off topic. I really love root cause analysis.
Okay.
With many tools like Ishikawa diagram, 5 whys, and so on. Why? Because very often what we think is a problem, it's not a problem. It's a symptom. And root cause analysis can help us to understand what is really the problem, what is the real cause of the problem. Yeah? And if you know the real cause of the problem, you can eliminate it. And you are touching the real problem, the real case, the real root cause that generated the problem. Yeah. So that's also one of the things that I really recommend to do. If you have a problem like this, complaints, before suggesting any solutions, you need to understand the root cause. What could be the root cause? The root cause could be, for example, the low quality of the product. So using wrong materials, for example, or the root cause could be using wrong technology. The root cause could be the process problem, like missing quality control. So depending on the root cause, you know the next step. And the next step is basically about trying to understand which solution options, solution proposals do we have? What can we do with the problem? Like, for example, I can outsource some of our processes to some organization that is an expert, that can do something for us. Yeah, that's one option. Another option, for example, if my quality control processes are missing, what I can do, my solution would be maybe creating new process, maybe improving our processes to ensure that in any case we are not missing the quality check. So the solution will be the process change. Sometimes our solutions would be, okay, we need some technology. So the end solution could be the software, but that's just one of many options. The first step, understanding the problem, understanding the root cause, then thinking how we can solve it. Typically, we are generating several solution proposals, several solution options, and then we can sit with the customer stakeholder and discuss things like, okay, we have solution number one. These are the benefits. These are the risks or costs, related with a given alternative. And that could be basically documented. The document, the work product dedicated for this kind of information is a business case. A business case that should justify that it will really make sense to invest in a given solution, in a given initiative. Yeah? And on the basis of this information, that's important, not a feeling. Yeah, not my guess that, okay, let's try to implement a solution like a software system. Probably it will help. That's not the good way, the good approach. The good approach is to use data, information, collected during the strategy analysis to support the decision. We know that the problem is in process. So how to solve the problem? We need to work on the process. Deploying solutions or introducing solutions like, I don't know, some CRM or another software system probably will not be the proper solution, because you will introduce a software system, but you will not improve the process. And this is the root cause.
Yeah.
So for given problem, you can have several solution alternatives. And of course, I am not telling the customer, hey, customer, you need to decide and you need to go with this solution.
Of course.
Yeah? I can recommend, I can help. I can give information about benefits, consequences, risk of taking an action or not taking an action, but I'm not deciding.
One question I just want to go back to just really quickly. You mentioned about root cause analysis, Ishikawa diagram, and I love those as well, by the way, because talking about understanding the problems, those are great tools to use. What are the typical sort of tools or techniques that you are using when you are doing strategy analysis?
Well, quite typically, I am starting with understanding what is the business about. So I'm using a business model canvas.
Okay.
A business model canvas to understand what is the business model of an organization. I could also use things like pestle analysis to understand the factors that are influencing a given organization, because these factors probably will be our constraints. So in the end, it may happen that I am not really ready to implement or recommend a given solution because we have a set of constraints that will limit the possibilities. Yes, so pestle can help. What else can help? I told you I love modeling and I love processes. Yeah, so for me, a kind of typical tool is process modeling, business process modeling. Like, if you really want to understand how things are going, this is my opinion, you need to follow the process. What does it mean? You need to understand what is happening in a given organization. Like, for example, how exactly they are producing some goods. Who is doing that? Which steps are needed? Which data or resources are used? Yeah? And for me, a tool that is perfectly addressing this area is process modeling. If you have the process modeling, then you can use another techniques, like this mentions technique for root cause analysis, like what's the problem in a given process? What is the reason of the problem? Yeah, like, for example, coming back to the topic that we mentioned, our problem is our complaints, customer complaints. And let's imagine that we identified that the root cause is basically maybe even not the root cause. One of the causes is that the quality check is missing. And the next question to understand the problem would be why the quality check is missing. Maybe because it's not in the process. Why? Maybe because the process description does not exist. And okay, so that's the problem. Maybe the quality check is not completed because people they don't really know that it should do it. Why? Maybe because they are not trained. And that's the problem.
Right.
Yes, so I'm mixing things. Like I'm using process modeling to understand the gaps in the process, weak points. Sometimes I am even using smart technique to understand some aspects. I can mix different techniques to establish a given goal. Yeah, to not establish, to reach a given goal, the objective of my activities. And again, what is important for me is first to establish what I want to achieve. I want to understand the processes performed in the organization. Okay, that's my goal. How to do it? I can do process modeling. Okay, to do process modeling, probably I will need to sit with stakeholders so that they can explain the processes to me. Maybe I can use another nice technique, observation. Maybe there is another way. Maybe some informations about the processes, they are just documented. So I can apply another technique that is called documentation analysis. And maybe I can even use totally another technique, a kind of benchmarking. Yes, so I can look into another domains, or I can look at another companies, how they are doing the same things, more or less. And I can use this knowledge to help the customer to build major processes, major organization.
First of all, thank you for taking us through the journey of not just the technique used, but at the stage you're using it and also why you're using it. I think it's really useful to paint that picture because yeah, I think one of the things that I'm very acutely aware of is that in the BA toolkit, we've got so many techniques and tools, and sometimes it's hard to kind of
Yeah.
know which one to use at what
Yes.
point and why would you pick one over another.
You know, my personal approach that is currently working is that when talking with a customer, with working with customer, and I don't really care if it's about strategy analysis of a pure software development project, it doesn't matter. When working with customer, I'm starting from establishing a kind of expectation, yeah? What we want to achieve. We want to improve the process, for example. Okay, what I need to deliver in order to improve the process. Like I am thinking in terms of artifacts, work products. Yeah. To improve the process, I need to have the process description, the model, the information. Yeah. I need to know what's missing, what's the problem, because otherwise I will not be able to improve anything. Yes, so I need to know the current state, I need to know the pain, and on that basis, I can deliver the deliverable, the work product that is called the future state, the to be process model. That's the second thing. And only then I can talk about activities, what I need to do to generate or to produce the business process model. I need to sit with stakeholder. Okay. I need to do interview. Okay. I need to go through documentation. Okay. So the activity is something that is basically derived from the work product definition. If you know the activity, that's the next level. You know the task, activities, dependencies, and so on. Then you can think about techniques.
I love this. I love this so much because I think many times as BAs I guess we get given a kind of, as you said, a work package, so to speak.
Mhm.
We need you to do analysis on X, Y, Z, whether it's at a strategic level or, as you say, a software development level or process change, whatever. And I think the first thing we do typically is kind of just start doing stuff, so to
Yeah.
speak, whether that's having the workshops or whether that's trying to put together a process model. But what you've just broken down there is almost effectively is putting together a BA plan, which I
Yes.
don't know, many times we don't really put that much effort into this.
And you know, that's quite not really nice because even if you will look into so called business analysis Bible, I'm talking about Bubble Guide. In
Mhm.
Bubble Guide, you have a whole knowledge area that is called business analysis process planning.
Hmm.
Yeah. And for me, it's a kind of obvious thing because let's forget about business analysis for a second. Let's talk about any kind of project initiative. It's a kind of basic information that before doing, you need to plan, at least plan something, plan the end result. Yeah? If you will just start doing things, you will never know if you are doing the right thing, if you are doing in a right way, if you are doing things that bring any value to anyone. Yeah, so that is why I'm putting so much focus on this planning.
Yeah.
Guys, let's sit for a second. Let's think what we need to deliver. What are the customer pain? What problem we are solving? Yeah. Let's plan the action. Let's choose the techniques that will help us to achieve results. Then we can start doing things. But only when we have a kind of plan, idea.
And the beautiful thing about that as well, that I'm just seeing the picture in my head. The beautiful thing about it as well is that it also helps with, number one, tracking progress of business analysis, which is
Of course.
sometimes hard to do. But also it's just ensuring that we're focusing on the right things, because typically speaking, as I said earlier, analysis just sometimes just never seems to end. There's always something else to look at, something else to do.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
if we have a plan that we're following, at least we know why we're doing something and what the intended outcome is. And once we've reached that intended outcome, that's almost a way for us to then go back to the plan and tick the box to say, yep, that part's done.
That's
Let's move
done.
on to
Yeah,
the next
exactly.
thing.
Exactly. And imagine, even if you have a plan, yeah, you have defined list of results that you want to achieve. And even if during your effort it appears that, maybe we should do this, and this, then you can refer to the plan and you can check if these actions, they really help you to bring the value to get to the result. If they not, why to do them?
Hmm.
And,
Yeah.
for me, that's one of the big challenges and mistakes that I can see in any business analysis, that we are just doing things because it's probably the right way to sit with the customer and discuss things. But if you don't know what are you going to ask about, and you don't know what is the goal of the questions, then probably the whole discussion, the meeting with the customer, sorry to say, but it could be that it is wasting of time, your time and your customer.
No, and I completely agree. And yeah, I feel like hopefully this will help a lot of people who are listening, because I definitely will put my hands up. There's been many times where I've just hit the ground running, so to speak, and thought I was, doing something useful, creating value, driving the project forward. Um, Only for one day to kind of start asking myself, or to start realizing the cracks, so to speak, and the
Mhm.
holes in the project, and things that I'm just like, okay, I didn't think about that. I missed that
Yeah.
completely. I didn't realize this area over here, and or maybe going back to previous stakeholders who I'd assured that everything is good, to be like, oh, sorry, actually, I forgot about this other thing over here. Can we have another conversation, please? And it's
And,
embarrassing,
and
really, when we
look,
do that, isn't it?
look how it sounds. Because again, I'm sorry to say, but if we will imagine a situation when I already discussed the topic with a stakeholder, yeah, they gave me their time, they
Hmm.
gave me their attention. I spent something like 2 hours, 3 hours, 10 minutes with them discussing thing, and afterwards, 2 days later, I am coming to them back and asking, "Hey, sorry, I forgot asking about something. Can we discuss again?" It doesn't sound professional.
No, no, it
And
doesn't.
one of our qualities is to build the trust, build the relationship with stakeholders, engage them, make them thinking that we can really help them. Yeah, this attitude will not help.
No, I honestly, I feel like, yeah, I'm glad we've had you touched on this particular topic, because it is a big part of it. Now, just I'm conscious that our time has really flown by. I'm really enjoying this conversation, but we do need to bring it to a close at some point. So I've got two kind of questions before we kind of move on to the closing questions. The first question that I've got is, coming back to that kind of strategic analysis kind of
Mhm.
conversation. I'm just imagining. So let's just say there's a scenario where there's a senior executive leader, or leaders, who essentially, they assume they know what the problem is, and so they want you to just kind of rush off and
Yeah, yeah.
fix it before, and they're not giving you enough, I guess, room to, number one, understand what on earth is the problem anyway. How do you handle those objections? And I'm asking this specifically from that senior level interaction. How do you kind of challenge really executive leaders to kind of say, no, from an analysis perspective, we need the time or this space to do this right?
Good question. Well, if my position in the company is, let's say, important enough or valuable enough that I can discuss with them as partners, it's quite easy. I can ask questions like, what do you want to achieve? Is this decision really helps you to achieve the goal? If I am talking with serious professional people, probably my questions make them think about the problem, and probably they will change their mind. Yeah, and instead of rushing, they will give us some time, some resources to sit and think. The second option, if I am just a kind of not strategic analyst, but I am just a pure project analyst working on the project level, and I am noticing something like I'm working on a project. Let's imagine that I'm working on a software system, yeah, and I can see that in the basis of my understanding of the company, the customer company, I don't really see a value in delivering this kind of stuff. What can I do about that? Of course, I can assume that, well, the customers know what to do, so I will believe that this is the right decision. My personal opinion, that's the wrong attitude. Because you are not building value in pretending that everything is okay. Yeah, my personal belief that is that even if you are not top manager, even if you are not so-called strategic business analyst, you can always ask questions. If you have product owner, ask the question, which value we are bringing to who. We can also escalate, or we can identify some risks, some consequences. It doesn't cost too much, right? But at least we know that in the worst case, we tried. Maybe in the better case, our questions will make another people thinking about that. And they will come back to us and ask for more questions. What do you think we should do? But the first step is you, actually. The first step is you asking questions. The first step is you challenging decisions.
Yeah. Yeah. No. Very good points. And the final question that I've got on this is: are there any particular tips that you would like to pass on to other kind of BAs who are working at a strategic level, or even aspire to work at a strategic level, regarding maybe their approach or their mindset of doing this, effectively?
Okay, so at least several. Maybe I will focus on the things that I think are the most important. The first thing, well, if you really want to help the business, you need to understand the business. Yeah, so just for example, if I want to help a customer that is working in, I don't know, domain of telecommunication, and I have no clue about communication, probably I will not help them. What can I do? Again, I can always ask questions. It may be that I don't really know the domain, but I know the business analysis processes and techniques. I know how to apply interview. I know how to apply questioning workshops. So for me, it's not a reason to be not really active. The reason that I don't really know big or deep understanding of the business, because this is one of our qualities. We need to learn all the time. Yeah, how to learn? You need to talk with the stakeholders. You need to ask questions. You need to collect this information to learn. Yeah? If you understand the business, at least to some extent, and you know the proper methods, techniques, then you can help them. Even if you are not able to formulate the recommendation, you will make people doing it. I mean, our role, from my understanding, the role of the business analyst is also to facilitate, to engage, making people working together. I will help you to understand what is your current state. I will help you to understand where are you going. I will help you to answer the question, how can we go to the future state? And not necessarily I will tell you, okay, this is the way, this is the solution. From my experience, the best, maybe not the best, but the good results are achieved when the stakeholders are formulating needs and solutions, because this is their job, their work. They did it. They are committed.
Yeah.
I am helping. They are doing. They are deciding. Another good thing in this attitude is that you are helping the customer to work together as the team. You are to some extent, you are transferring your analytical skills to another people. You are helping them thinking like as BA. For you, it's easier because you are able to work with them, help them. For them, it's also easier because they are learning. The next time, probably they can provide you the more informed decisions and informations.
Very, 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 very good points there. Yeah, very good points. And if we had time, I'd dive a bit deeper into some of them, but thank you so much for those. So in closing, Karolina, first of all, thank you again for coming onto the podcast. It has been such an eye-opening conversation. I find every conversation I have on this podcast always brings a new insight, and I think you've definitely brought a very, 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 very good insight in strategy analysis, but also planning, but also understanding the techniques that we're using and when and things like that. And I really just want to acknowledge your experience and your knowledge and expertise, and thank you for sharing that with us. If
Thank
people
you
would
very
like,
much.
yeah, no, you're welcome. If people would like to kind of connect with you and maybe even pick your brain even more and ask you further questions, what's the best place for them to do that?
Oh, that's no problem to reach me on LinkedIn, also on Facebook. I think that LinkedIn could be the easy solution, the easiest way.
No problem. Yeah, I will put the link in the show notes for to your LinkedIn profile. So, in closing, is there any final points that you just want to, one last tip or one last thought that you just want to drop before we close off the show?
Yeah, there's something that I learned that people really have a problem with. Don't be afraid to say, I don't know. Really. Sometimes we try to pretend that we know everything, that we know the business, we know the customers, we know solutions for everything. Don't be. Just if you don't know something, just ask the customer, dear customer, how does it work? Explain to me. What do you think about that?
Yeah, 100%. I'm taking that tip home myself because I need to remind myself sometimes that very thing. But yeah, once again, Karolina, thank you so much for coming onto the show. I really appreciate everything you've shared, and I love everything. And I'm pretty sure people who will listen to this will definitely find value in everything you shared today. So once again, thank you so much.
Thank you.